Ready, set, go. When I was in 8th grade, I ran against my arch nemesis, also named Lindsay, for class president. There's a couple things you should know about the other Lindsay. She was already on the varsity soccer team. She took harder classes than me, and she is the life of the party. Clearly, even in this picture, right? She's laughing in her yearbook picture. So this is a huge deal when you're in 8th grade. If you become the president of your 8th grade class, do you know what you get to do? You get to pick out the colors of the balloons for your formal. And I was not going to lose this. So the day comes, everybody's voting. We're walking down the hallway. I'm walking down the hallway. I'm seeing all my friends, right? The lockers are slamming. Remember that sound? Everybody slam their lockers? Walk down my little backpack. People are saying, hey, I voted for you. Hey, I voted for you. Voted for you. And then some people would say, good luck. Good luck. We all know what that means, don't we? You didn't vote for me. I got it. So in my head, I'm kind of counting the votes, right? Like, okay, well, 12 people said it to me directly. And let me just keep this in my head. So I'm kind of counting in my head, trying to keep a tally, trying not to hate anybody. Because I'm like, I don't think you voted for me. You didn't say you voted for me. Huh, all right, well. Trying to stay cool as a cucumber for the day. End of the day, I'm in Miss Volpe's class, English. Worst way to end the day. This woman probably has 12 cats, always wearing polka dots. Not paying attention to her at all. Just sitting in my chair, in my desk. You know when we had that built-in desk chair thing you had to slide into? I missed a lot. I have a lot of leg bruises from that. So I'm sitting there waiting for the announcements. I don't care about English. I don't care about Romeo and Juliet right now. I just need to know if I won. So we start to go through for treasurer Sheila Menz. You know, Sheila went on to become a lawyer. She's like a big deal now. Her last picture was with Hillary Clinton on Facebook. I was like, good job, Sheila. You nailed it. Vice President Ted Winslow. I ended up dating Ted almost through all of high school, and then guess who he dumped me for? The other Lindsay! Oh my gosh. So here we are, waiting for the final call. And for president of the 8th grade class, Lindsay Boccardo! This is an important event. I'm telling you that this event is a historical moment for you. This is telling your body and mind something about yourself. It's telling you, oh my gosh, maybe I really am a leader. Maybe I am going to influence. Maybe my life is like bigger than I expected. Maybe it's not just about getting through biochem next semester. Maybe I'm really here to change people's lives. And I think you are. I think this is way, 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 way bigger than what you can imagine right now. These types of events in your life don't happen a lot, but they change the trajectory of where you head, how you influence people, and how you spend the rest of your life. Leadership can be a little isolating because you're going to have to make hard decisions sometimes. And I love when people like me. It's really hard to make a decision when I know people are going to be upset, right? I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. And that's one person was like, nope. Nope, I'll make that decision. I don't even care. But most of us, this season of your life, part of what you're going to learn to do is encourage yourself. Remind yourself. Be a voice and a champion for you. Because the one thing, I work with private clients all the time who are graduated from college. They're engineers, they're lawyers, they do all different types of stuff. But the one thing that we work on the most is how we talk to ourselves. And if you're from high achievement land, this is how you talk to yourself. Oh my gosh, I have to nail this. If this doesn't go well, oh God, if this doesn't go well. Oh gosh, okay. I'm going to do great, I'm going to do great. I will make this happen. And then if it doesn't go just the way we planned, we're like, oh no. Do you think they're upset with me? Oh gosh, I think they're upset. I don't know if this is going to work. What's going to happen? This is how we live. I live on that kind of worry-wart cycle, and some of you have experienced that too. And in college, this is really hard. How many of you here are introverts? Oh yeah, yes, okay, yes. FOMO is the worst for an introvert, right? Yes, got an amen. When I was a freshman, there was one weekend where I was zonked. You know, freshman year when you're just like, what is all this homework? Like, this was easy for me in high school and I just got a C, right? I had that experience my freshman year, and so I was like, I am going to buckle down and I'm going to stay in at night and I'm going to do my work. And so one night, one of my best friends, Charlene, was like, hey, Lindsay, you got to come out with us. I was like, nope, I'm buckling down. And I was an introvert and I was totally zonked. I just was like, I can't even function. And I went to Syracuse, which is like 4 times colder than here. I was like, I'm not going out in the freezing cold, okay? Just leave me. Leave me here in my bed. So she went out. 3-4 hours later, she comes busting through my door. She's like, Lindsay, you will not believe who I just met. Alicia Keys was at Cosmo's Pizza. Alicia Keys is my favorite artist of all time, and she knew that. This was like before texting where you could, wow, I'm old. Yuck. But this was like, you only texted like if you had to, you know? We didn't have fun screens or like black and gray, and you would just text short things. So she's like, I just met her. I walked right up to her and started talking to her. I was like, what kind of pizza did she have? She puts broccoli on her pizza, by the way. FOMO times 10, right? I was like, I hate that I'm an introvert. No, right? The irony is Charlene is now in PR. And like the other day, she put up a picture of her hugging Beyonce. I was like, okay, you know, that was your destiny. Okay, that's your story. My story is snuggling with my dogs, okay? You've got a purpose. You have a purpose. There's a reason you're here that's beyond putting a president on your resume. You have a purpose in this life to fulfill. And when there's people in your life that are draining you and pulling you away from your purpose, or when you get off track from your purpose, it's going to be important that you put in boundaries so that you can stay true to who you are. I think that's why you're really here, because something in your gut is telling you that you're here to change other people's lives. You're not here to put something on your resume, okay? Who cares? I look at resumes all day. You're here for something so much more than that. Each of you has the power, given your leadership, and the influence to change the trajectory of someone else's life. So we're going to talk just a little bit about what schools looked like when millennials were growing up, and then what the family system looked like, because every generation changes the way they parent. Just to give you kind of that overview of maybe this is why they expect something different from me at work. So school, let's talk a little bit about that. Does anybody remember this program? Dare to Keep Kids Off Drugs. It was 1983 in California, and we wanted to find a way. Gen Xers and boomers, y'all loved your drugs, especially boomers. The drug use was through the roof, and so I suspect that the parents got together with a PTA board and a policeman came into a school in California in 1983 and started this conversation. Started a conversation around why drug use is so dangerous, how it'll ruin your life, all that. And so all of a sudden, school is no longer just about education. Now we're looking at the actual welfare of a kid, right? We're looking at, we're going to skip spelling today and talk to this cop and make sure that you stay off of drugs. Even my second grade teacher, Miss Tintillo, on Friday afternoons, she would have to put a puppet parrot on her hand, and she would tell us about drug use and basically to not do cocaine. And it totally worked. I never did cocaine, so this program is amazing. And we expected in school that people with authority would come low, basically, like a cop is going to go off the streets and come and spend time with us and share with us what matters in life, right? And how to live a healthy lifestyle. And we expected that from our teachers too. The other thing that changed throughout the 80s and 90s is technology, right? So by 1999, as millennials are going off in their high school and by the time they're starting to go to college, 99% of schools had computers. So I grew up on the internet. I remember I was in 7th grade. Do you remember the first time you went on the internet? I remember going on and being like, this makes perfect sense. I remember my brain going like, shunk, okay, I get what the internet is. And then it was just a part of my lifestyle ever since then, right? So we saw education change around that too. You'll see when we talk about learning now, it's not about getting the information. It's sussing out what information is true and what's not. There was a time, do you remember, when your family would be really proud because they bought the Encyclopedia Britannica set? I had one of these. So if you want to learn about bicycles, you couldn't just Google bicycles. You'd go over to the shelf and grab the B book, right? And look through it and learn. And so learning looks a lot different for millennials too, because we're used to accessing information real quick. So we're not as worried about storing it permanently up here, because we can just go find it again. Hence the reason I don't even know my own phone number, right? I do, but that's the only number I know. I can't remember my parents' numbers. I don't store any of that anymore. So learning looks different. So when you're trying to train me to do something, if there's a shortcut with technology, I'm like, but I don't care, I don't care, I don't care. Just tell me how to use the tech, because I was raised that way. Does that make sense? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying this is how we've evolved as a society.
Just the way it is.
It's the way it is. Millennials were the victims of technology. We didn't create it. We just started using it prolifically in schools. And so we have a different way of learning. We also have, and you kind of mentioned this, Thomas, when I was eavesdropping, we have a different way of kind of gaming the system. So even when I took SATs, do you think SATs are a measure of intelligence? They're really a measure of if you can play the game, right? And standardized testing, if you live in Indiana, I think every state has some version of state-level standardized testing. We have federal standardized testing, but that concept around any type of standardized testing, the idea was that we would be able to help every student have a chance to learn. But what has really happened? Teachers teach their kids how to pass a test, which is not true learning. That's not real learning. When I took the SATs, I hired an SAT coach, and she told me all the shortcuts. I didn't learn Latin. I still suck at math. She was like, write the second essay. It gets graded differently than the first. If you don't know an answer, fill in the bubble. It's worth 1/8 of a point. Just do these little secrets and it'll raise your score. And it totally worked. So there's this mentality too that we can kind of game, like how do I get around this? How do I get this score? I don't really have the pattern of learning. My dad is a boomer and he's dyslexic, so he had to redo his homework all the time. But that was the point, is that his teacher would give it back and say, do it again until it's right. Now we're just on to the next thing, we're on to the next thing. And kids aren't necessarily learning in the same way that you may have learned. So you can imagine we're coming to you with just a different mentality around how you train us, how we do our job for you. That making sense? You can kind of see how this plays out, because if that's the only thing you know growing up, that's what you expect from everybody. Maslow was a psychologist. He published this in the 1940s. It's still true today across socioeconomic status, across the globe. So his concept was this: every human being is wired to have certain needs met in a certain order. So your first level of needs at the bottom of your pyramid is physiological needs: food, water, shelter. If I don't have water, that's going to be a main concern of mine, right? I'm going to be thinking about food and water a lot. And then once those needs are met, my curiosity kicks in and says, what else is available to me in this world? What else could I have? And you move up to safety. You start to think, how can I create safety? How do I make sure that not just that I have food and water, but I have consistent shelter, I have consistent food? So in the workplace, it might sound like physiological need, I have a job to earn money. Safety needs, I have a pension, or I have job security, this job provides good benefits, I've got PTO. So I know that typically in the US, most jobs, we are aiming to at least cover these two, right? And we have laws around making sure that we're taking care of our employees to a certain extent. So this right here, when we talk about the history that boomers went through in their life, when I asked you, hey, what did you expect out of work? You're saying this stuff, right? Because you're like, we gotta work to eat. So when I look at my job, I'm happy if I have money. I'm happy it'd be amazing if I got PTO. Because of how you were raised and the time that you were raised, it makes sense that that's what you want from work. And then we fast forward and talk about how boomers, how millennials, we hit its economic high. We had really high mortgage rates. Our economics were stable. We were telling everybody to go to college. So millennials expect this. This is no longer like, hey, that's nice, that'd be amazing to have. We're saying, yeah. I went to college. These are guaranteed now. That's what I was taught, right? These are guaranteed. So when we look at Maslow's hierarchy, the next thing after these two things are positioned and you have them, and when you have physiological and safety needs met, the next thing you're looking for is love and belonging. And I know that can be kind of cringy. Because you're thinking that's what you do at home. You get love and belonging at home. Millennials are looking for this at work, and millennial-driven companies create rituals around onboarding. They create rituals around anniversaries, things like that, so that people feel like they truly belong. It would sound something like this out of a millennial's mouth. It sounds something like, I feel included, I like my team, it's collaborative. We talked about this over here. My manager knows me well, I get frequent feedback. The work culture and social norms are clear. I know what you expect of me, I'm able to produce that. I feel connected to the people here. So we're going from, that's why when you talk to a millennial about what they want out of work, they're up in these three, they're up in the blue, and boomers are down in the red because we grew up in a different time. And it's very natural when I talk to any generation about what millennials want. At the end of the day, which we'll talk about in a minute, those 4 factors of engagement, most people would admit, actually, I would like those things too. I would just never think to ask them, but I do want them. Does this make sense that depending on how you grew up, you're at a different level on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and your expectations of work reflect that? That's what's happening. That's why boomers see millennials wanting love and belonging. We all want to stay together to do the job of one man, right? We all want to feel connected to each other. We're going to have a kickball tournament after work. You're like, I don't care, just get your work done, right? We're going to go out for drinks. Want to come, boss? Nope, don't want to come. Going home with my family, have a good time, right? Millennials find their family and their friends. They find their family in their work. They find love and belonging at work. So it's natural that they're expecting these types of things from you up here on Maslow's hierarchy because we are more stable as a society when we are growing up.